This is Voicemail, the Universal Postal Union's podcast covering the wonderful world of mail. I'm your host, Ian Kerr. Joining me in this episode are UPU Deputy Director General Pascal Clivaz, Chairman of the UPU Consultative Committee Walter Trezek, and David Avzek from the UPU's Postal Technology Centre. We talked about moves to open up the UPU, digital transformation, and the essential topic of advanced electronic data and cross-border e-commerce. These interviews were recorded at the recent Parcel and Post Expo in Vienna, an appropriate venue for a discussion about technology, delivery, and the UPU. I'm here with Pascal Clivaz, Deputy Director General of the UPU. Lots of things happening at the UPU at the moment. Digital transformation. Tell us a bit about what the UPU is doing in this regard.
We are trying to do our best in this regard because everywhere we are talking about digital. Early in our mandate, 2016, we had the digital agenda in our mind. So we had to speed up, of course, this agenda, not only because of the pandemic, which came late on our mandate, but before that, there was a lot of push to have this digital transformation be done. Of course, in the operational side, we had the push from the legislation coming from the US, Europe. They were expecting electronic advanced data. And so we had to faster our processes internal to make sure that we were able to set up product and services accordingly. We have also partnership like with World Customs Organization, with IATA, with other partners on the supply chain. And you need nowadays to be fully compatible with this digital era. So we had to speed up our product and services side. On the other hand, of course, we are intergovernmental agency. We had to face a number of challenges now with the COVID, also with internal production. So we had to speed up also our digital production of meetings. And we were able last August to deliver the full digital UPU Congress ever.
Does this transformation at the UPU level reflect the transformation that we're seeing in the postal sector and in general, with moving from being a letters-driven sector to being a parcels-driven sector?
Of course, everybody has in mind now what happened with e-commerce and the booming and the tsunami of parcels we saw last 16, 18 months coming from different parts of the world, mainly from Asia Pacific, China. But of course, there was a trend before, and the trend was accelerated due to the pandemic situation. So now we need, and there is a strong need of all the supply chain to cope with this requirement. And today we are not only talking to airlines, we are also talking to railways, to this kind of partners who need also to be at the same level of development in terms of digital transformation.
You've just mentioned supply chain and multimodal.
Yeah.
So these are all important parts of this modern e-commerce offering, and the Post plays obviously a crucial role as having that universal reach. So what's next for the UPU with regards to bringing together all of this collaboration?
The next step for the UPU is the opening up to other sector players. We are now in a world where the postal players are not only the postal designated operators. We are talking about players that are in the space now. Amazon is the best player for that. No, but without joking, this is the world we are in. Those players are moving a lot of goods in the planet, and we need to make sure that we all together will be in the position to deliver the future. We are United Nations organization. We are also to cope with the Sustainable Development Goals, and one of it is of course the sustainable development of the business model, the climate change. All these kind of problematics are within our agenda.
Pascal Clivaz, Deputy Director General, thanks for joining us on Voicemail today.
Thank you. My pleasure.
I'm I'm here with Walter Trezek. Walter is chairman of the Consultative Committee, and there's been plenty happening at the UPU just recently. First of all, let's talk about digital transformation strategy. Just tell us a bit about this.
Yes, a lot of things happened at the UPU recently. We had our 27th Congress, the Abidjan Congress, over the summer. And it was a Congress where we saw that the UPU actually adopted its first ever digital strategy. That's very important because the future obviously is with data. The UPU did a leapfrog by introducing electronic advanced data on each and every commercial item cross borders. The UPU is currently, of course, the backbone of all e-commerce delivery. And this is very, very important. About 75% of all e-commerce items below 2 kilograms are in the network of the designated operators based on the global network of the UPU.
So what does this electronic advanced data mean for postal operators? What does it mean for governments? And what does it mean for consumers?
Electronic advanced data means that commercial items, e-commerce, can only be sent if data has been exchanged between the operators digitally in advance. For the authorities, it means that there is a digital track on each and every commercial items globally available in a harmonized format. This is very, very important because digitalization is the driving factor of the whole sector.
So, and what about for postal operators? What will the impact be for them?
If you have data in advance, you can streamline your operations. So you know what's coming even before it hits you. This is very important even when it comes to the ecological footprint. So this is the link then also to the Green Deal. Data, Green Deal works together. Who is at the forefront? The UPU.
So just quickly on this idea of the environmental impact of cross-border, can you just give us an example of how this data will help with reducing the environmental impact of cross-border traffic?
That was another big achievement. Austria, France, and Germany tabled a resolution at the UPU conference to tackle the global footprint of parcel and postal delivery. That proposal was adopted, and the UPU is the first special organization of the United Nations who is adopting such measures on a global basis for the whole sector, not only for the designated operators, not only for the member countries, for the whole postal sector, including, of course, the courier, the express operators, and the non-designated parcel delivery operators. This is very important because it's all based on the data already available. And we need to measure it. And it goes beyond the postal network. It starts upfront and ends after delivery, including, of course, the packaging and the content in the parcel.
And you just mentioned designated operators and member countries. What's the future there? Because there's been some movement on that front.
Absolutely. And we worked extremely hard over the last cycle to open up the UPU, and we achieved a consensus. There are two major things. First of all, to open up the UPU, its products and services, more work needs to be done. And therefore, the UPU decided to have a mid-term congress in 2023, fully dedicated on that topic. But we also achieved a consensus using the Consultative Committee as the vessel for opening up the UPU for the wider sector stakeholders. Who are the wider sector stakeholders? The wider sector stakeholders are everybody who is not a government, member country of the UPU, and not a designated operator. Everybody, starting from unions, handicapped people, up to the courier express and parcel delivery operators, and all the manufacturers currently here in Vienna.
And so will this mean that they too will be able to reap the environmental benefits of the data transfer and things like that?
Not only that, they will be involved in creating those standards, creating those measurement tools, linked of course to the data they already need to supply in advance on each and every postal consignment.
So does this really mean that we'll finally see that the postal world is not a closed one, we are part of the wider e-commerce and delivery ecosystem?
Absolutely. That was exactly the target of the DG and DDG working in the last 9 years on that topic.
Walter Trezek, thank you very much for joining us on Voicemail today.
Thank you very much indeed. All the best. Thank you.
I'm here with David Avsek. David is from the UPU's Postal Technology Centre, and data is the subject of our discussion today. Advanced electronic data, or electronic advanced data, depends on who you talk to, really. I guess let's start with, can you just give us an overview of what it is and why it's the subject of everybody's conversation right now?
Well, really, it's about regulations at the beginning, because it's a must-have now for the last couple of years in Europe or in other parts of the world, and at the UPU as well. It's a must-have to provide advanced electronic information for any item you want to ship.
And when we say advanced electronic information, what kind of information do we have to collect?
So it's pre-advised, and it's basically a customs electronic declaration that you have to have on every postal item. So basically to declare the content, to declare who is the origin and who is the destination person.
And are we seeing that there's now a uniformity in what's required for every nation across the world?
Well, the requirements are very clear and uniform. They are standardized, etc. But the readiness, the compliance is not the same, of course. And that's what we try to solve at the UPU, is to make everybody compliant.
So how can a designated operator or someone like that try to become, or increase and improve their compliance?
Well, there's a lot about technology, and that's where we play a role at the PTC, to provide tools and services to make them capture data, and more importantly, capture good data. So when we look at compliance at the UPU, it's not only about the quantity, it's not only to match that every single item has a declaration, but now we are increasingly looking at the quality of those declarations.
And when you say quality of the declarations, what do you mean by that?
It means the data. It means that every single declaration must have a certain number of mandatory data elements. So we look that those elements are there, and we look also that they are well formed, like postal address are well formed, that the declaration itself corresponds to an HS code, for example. So all that is part of the compliance at the UPU.
And what trends are you seeing when it comes to compliance? Is it improving across the board? What is your general comments on that?
It is improving, but it's still a challenge in many parts of the world to organize the collection of data. Because, when you talk about post, there's a big difference with cargo. With cargo, you will have X number of times the same item. With post, if you have 1,000 customers, you will have 1,000 different mail items. So organizing good quality data and the capture of this data is a challenge in certain parts of the world.
And so when you're talking to some of these postal operators who are trying to improve their compliance and improve the data that they're collecting, what are some of the pain points for them? Where are they finding that they need to improve?
I think it's mostly about organizing different channels for collecting this information. And that's where we help, because we have some web application, we have some mobile applications now for the customers. We have a number of APIs to interface with other systems. So basically, every postal organization now has multiple choice to capture information.
And so if you were speaking with a postal operator, what would be some of the key things that you would say to them to help them achieve better compliance? And indeed, why it's important for them?
It's really not a choice anymore. It's really not an option anymore. In certain parts of the world, there's the threat that mail items will get returned if they come without that pre-advised information. So it's really not an option. So really my message is act, work on it, and we are here to help.
If a postal operator, a designated operator wants to find out more about what the UPU is doing to help delivery companies and postal operators in this regard, what should they do? Who should they contact?
Well, pretty much anybody at the UPU, of course in the PTC, but it's a very hot topic at the UPU. We have many people working on that at the moment. It's very high on the UPU agenda.
David Avsek from the Postal Technology Centre at the UPU. Thanks for joining us on Voicemail today.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
You've been listening to Voicemail, the official podcast of the Universal Postal Union. Subscribe to the podcast on your favourite podcast platform and you'll get each episode downloaded to the device of your choosing as it's released. My thanks to the team at the UPU for their help putting together this episode. I'm your host, Ian Kerr, and I'll look forward to your company next time on Voicemail, the podcast of the UPU.